Now, video games allow you to make your own choices, but some are clearly better than others. Between saving the day and falling flat on your face, it's obviously the former is the one you're going to choose. However, this is where some video games may surprise you. Although a choice might be presented as an easy case of picking the good or the bad, choosing the less favourable option can turn out to have a better outcome in the long run. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 bad video game choices that are secretly the best option. Number 10. Don't Answer Johnny, Cyberpunk 2077. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 features several different endings that range from slightly depressing to full-on psychological torment. The best ending out of all of them is probably the secret one where V decides to storm Arasaka all on their own, and funnily enough, in the gallows humour sort of way, it's unlocked by them pondering if they should actually kill themselves. To pick this secret ending, V needs to not make a choice during the final discussion about storming Arasaka with Johnny. This will cause them to consider ending their lives, but if their friendship score with Johnny is high enough, the waiting will also unlock a second option where it turns into a final gung-ho mission. In this choice, V decides to solo the mission and blow up the tower or die in a blaze of glory. What makes this choice special is that the mission that follows is the only permadeath scenario in the entire game. If you die here, the game will instantly end and deem your attempt a failure. But if you make it to the end, you'll get the best ending possible, where V foils all the evil plans and all of their friends are still alive. Now that is how you make lemonade out of lemons. Number 9. Kill Kate, The Devil in Me. The Devil in Me is Supermassive Games' take on Jigsaw-style horror. You play as a group of filmmakers trapped inside a hotel by a serial killer obsessed with trap making, and your goal is to make it out alive from his labyrinth of DIY murder contraptions. Well, it seems like somebody didn't get enough arts and crafts projects in school. One of the killer's murderous toys consists of 2 sealed chambers, where he traps Kate and Erin. He shows that he'll cut off oxygen in one of the chambers, and you have to choose which one. It feels like the best option here is to simply not pick either woman and look for a way to help them both escape. However, this will lead to the game making the choice for you and killing one character off. If you want to keep both characters alive, what you actually have to do is seemingly doom one of them to death by suffocation, because that choice actually won't kill them. Yeah, it turns out if you pick Kate, it's then revealed that her chamber isn't completely airtight, and so she'll be able to make it out alive alongside Erin. That's why you don't leave making death traps to an amateur. Number 8. Sacrifice Rachel, House of Ashes. House of Ashes, another entry into Supermassive Games' anthology series, features a similar false dilemma where the worst choice is secretly the best. This choice takes place during an intense action sequence where Rachel and her husband Eric are suspended over a huge chasm and the former is about to fall. You have a choice as Eric to cut Rachel's rope and let her fall to save yourself, or hang on to her in hopes of keeping her alive. Now, naturally, most players would gravitate towards saving Rachel as they would want to keep all of the survivors alive. However, doing so will cause not only Rachel but also Eric to fall off the cliff, and even though Rachel will survive the fall, the same can't be said about her husband. On the contrary, if you let Eric be a selfish and heartless bastard, you can secretly save both him and his wife, as in this scenario Rachel survives the fall again and Eric gets to stay on top of the cliff where he's not risking breaking all the bones in his body. True love wins again. The true love between Eric and his own reflection in the mirror. Number 7. Dean Dewey, Fallout 3. In early Fallout games, giving your character low intelligence would present you with additional dialogue options that reflected your less than average wits. Unfortunately, most of the time, these new dialogue choices would have negative outcomes, such as NPCs ignoring you or straight up attacking you for your incompetence. For this reason, when you play Fallout 3, you might assume that your low intelligence is a curse. And yet, there are a few situations where it does the opposite and actually helps you instead. For example, when interacting with the Protectron inside Roosevelt Academy, Dean Dewey acts as the headmaster of the abandoned school, and when activated, it will demand that the player show them their hall pass. Failing to do so will cause the Dean to attack you unless you trick it with a skill check or extremely low intelligence. If you pick the low intelligence option in the dialogue, the Dean will not only not attack you, but it will deem you a special needs student and personally escort you to the classroom, protecting you from anything on the way. You may not be the brightest, but hey, at least you get a personal robot bodyguard. Number 6. Steal to Survive, Detroit Become Human. In Detroit Become Human, you play as androids in the midst of an AI revolution against their flashbag oppressors. You naturally want the cause to succeed, seeing as your virtual protégés seek to be free of their servitude to humans. However, the path to reaching this goal isn't as obvious as you might expect, especially with Kara, Alice, and Luther, whose final chapter, The Crossroads, is one of the toughest and deadliest moments in the game. In the sequence, you have to get the trio across the Canadian-American border, and even the slightest mistake can lead to the death of one or all three characters. Now, you might be asking to yourself, what's the best way to do this? Well, apparently by committing a crime against your own moral code, of course. You see, the most crucial part of successfully getting all three androids across is to steal a bus ticket from a family at the border post, which might seem awful if you made a promise to Alice to not steal anything. However, the tickets are the only way to get everyone through safely, because without them, Alice and Luther get stopped and then killed by the border patrol. You may be a hypocrite, but at least you're a living hypocrite. Number 5. Submit and go to prison. Dragon Age Origins. Video game logic would have you believe that fighting your enemies is far better than giving up and submitting to them, but not in Dragon Age Origins, however, because here it spares you from having to fight an impossibly hard battle and rewards you with a fun prison escape sequence plus a squeaky clean crime record. During a main questline mission, one of your objectives is to break Queen Honora out of a castle. As you're about to escape with her, you get stopped by this personal bodyguard who is quite imposing and tells you to stand down and come quietly in exchange for letting the Queen go. If you don't comply with her demands, you have to fight your way through a small army in what is one of the hardest fights in the game. If you give up and let yourself be imprisoned, you don't have to fight anyone at all, and instead you're treated to a special mission where you control your companions trying to break you out of prison. This outcome is way more fun and easier to do, and as a bonus, you get the moral high ground against Loghain in court for not slaughtering his men against the law. It does feel good to be a law-abiding citizen. Number 4. Don't arrest Joseph Seed. Far Cry 5. Far Cry 5 follows a team of law enforcement as they try to put a stop to Joseph Seed and his cult, and you get the option to arrest the man right at the start of the game, but contrary to what your mission tells you, putting your handcuffs on Joseph's wrists isn't the best course of action. And actually the best course of action is not doing your job at all. Yes, following the long-standing tradition of Far Cry games, the 5th entry in the series includes a secret ending for waiting instead of following the main plot of the game. During the intro, where the game gives you a prompt to arrest Joseph, standing idly for long enough will cause your character to step away, leading to a secret ending where you let the cultist walk free and settle for arresting him at a more opportune moment. Considering that the alternative sets forth the events of the entire game, culminating in 2 endings where you either cause a nuclear apocalypse or kill all of your friends, it's clear that being a lazy cop is actually the best choice here. Don't worry, we'll get him next time, I'm sure of it. Number 3. The American Greeting. Fallout 4. Fallout 4 features a ton of unique random encounters, and one of them lets the sole survivor come across a pre-war Mr. Gutsy called Lieutenant Gutsy, who still protects Boston's outskirts from Chinese spies 200 years after the war has ended. The robot will ask you to identify yourself and prove that you're an American citizen, and if you choose the wrong response, he'll call you a communist and attack you immediately. There are several ways to resolve this situation without violence, and you think that telling Lieutenant Gutsy to go f*** himself wouldn't be one of them. In reality, it's one of the easiest and most reliable ways of convincing him you're not a spy. When you decide to tell the robot off, he'll recognize the American patriotism of greeting random strangers with swear words and let you pass the border without a problem. To make things even funnier, any attempts at pleading and bargaining will cause Mr. Gutsy to attack you, so cussing at him is the most straightforward way to avoid conflict without a skill check. Alternatively, you can also cause him to explode by repeating the same question over and over, which is also downright hilarious in its own right. Number 2. Death Wish. Grand Theft Auto 5. The ending of Grand Theft Auto 5 presents the player with a really tough choice. You have to pick between killing Trevor or Michael, or refusing to betray either of them but dooming yourself and potentially your friends that you're trying to protect, to the wrath of the most powerful people in Los Santos. The game labels the last choice as the Death Wish, implying that it will kill Franklin and perhaps everyone else. But despite this colourful name and all of its connotations, it's secretly the best choice to make. In the Death Wish ending, Franklin, Trevor and Michael choose not to go down without a fight and eliminate all of their enemies in the city at the same time. The ending is considerably harder to get through than the other two, but it's also the only way to keep all 3 protagonists alive and have them remain friends. The twist in the final choice is well known by now, but when GTA 5 came out, a lot of people fell for the overbearing implications of the Death Wish ending and picked the easier route by killing Michael or Trevor instead. And then they had to replay the entire game, realizing that they'd sacrificed them for nothing. And number 1, let Volo take your eye. Baldur's Gate 3. And what benefits can a botched lobotomy resulting in the loss of an eye give you? Well, if you're playing Baldur's Gate 3, the answer is the ability to see invisible people. Yes, early on in the story, while your character is searching for a cure to the tadpole growing in their brain, they can try to seek the solution to their problem through Volo, aka Faerun's most trustworthy historical source, if by trustworthy you mean willing to say and write anything for fame. The gossiping bard will propose to perform an impromptu brain surgery on you using an ice pick. Subjecting yourself to the procedure and making it all the way to the end, despite your character's very obvious screams of pain, will result in the permanent loss of an eye. However, before you can panic or rip Volo a new one, the amateur surgeon will present you with a magical glass eye that allows you to see invisible creatures, and there are no downsides to losing your organic eye, save for a penalty that lasts only a mere turn, so letting him mutilate your face is, surprisingly enough, the best choice you can make here. Nice.